Have you ever noticed how zombies are almost always portrayed the same way? They no longer question where they're headed, or whether they're even choosing the direction themselves. As strange as it sounds, that description is beginning to resemble modern life more than horror fiction. Most people wake up at the same time, follow the same routines, commute along the same roads, respond to the same notifications, complete the same responsibilities, return home exhausted, distract themselves until it's time to sleep, and then repeat the entire process again the next day. They're not incapable of thinking. They've simply stopped noticing how much of their life is running on autopilot. Perhaps the most unsettling part is that high-functioning zombies don't look broken. They look completely normal. In fact, many of them are highly productive, successful, and admired. The question is, how many of us have quietly become one? Welcome to the Glitch Cult. Today, we're exploring one of the strangest transformations a human being can experience, and why almost nobody notices when it happens. One of the most remarkable things about being human is that we are born into a world with almost unlimited possibilities. None of us arrives with a predetermined future. The life we eventually live is shaped by thousands of decisions, countless opportunities, unexpected encounters, and moments of courage that slowly pull us in one direction instead of another. Every person begins life carrying far more potential than certainty. Yet somewhere along the way, something changes. Not because our potential disappears, but because our imagination quietly does. As children, we naturally believe that life can become almost anything. We imagine different futures without needing evidence that they will happen. We don't see possibility as something that has to be earned. We simply assume it exists. The future feels open, unfinished, and waiting to be explored. As we grow older, that relationship with life slowly changes. Not because life becomes impossible, but because we begin treating our current circumstances as permanent. A person spends enough years in the same environment, surrounded by the same expectations, solving the same problems, hearing the same opinions, and eventually something subtle begins to happen. They stop asking themselves what else could exist beyond the life they already know. Without ever making a conscious decision, possibility slowly gets replaced by probability. Instead of asking, what kind of life could I build? The question quietly becomes, what kind of life is realistic for someone like me? That single shift changes everything. Because the moment you stop viewing life as an open landscape of possibilities and begin viewing it only through the lens of your current circumstances, your decisions also begin shrinking to fit those circumstances. This is why so many people genuinely believe they're satisfied with their lives. Ask someone if they're happy, and many will immediately answer yes. Not because they've deeply reflected on their life, but because the question arrives unexpectedly, and the mind instinctively protects the life it has already invested years into building. Yet if you continue the conversation, if you ask them what they would have done differently, what dreams they stopped pursuing, what part of themselves they miss, what they wish they had the courage to try, the answers often begin to change. Suddenly, forgotten ambitions begin resurfacing. Old interests return. Regrets quietly appear. Not because these feelings were created during the conversation. They were always there. They had simply been buried underneath the responsibilities of continuing life. Perhaps this is what becoming a high-functioning zombie actually means. It isn't losing your intelligence. It isn't losing your emotions. It isn't even losing your ambition. It's gradually losing the habit of questioning whether the life you're living is still the life you truly want. You continue functioning. You continue progressing. You continue solving tomorrow's problems with yesterday's routines. From the outside, everything appears completely normal. But internally, something has quietly disappeared. The belief that life is still unfolding. The belief that your future remains unwritten. The belief that possibilities still exist beyond the version of yourself you have become. And once a person stops believing that life can still surprise them, they rarely notice that they have also stopped searching for those surprises. Perhaps that's what separates a person who is truly living from one who is only functioning. Not how busy they are, not how successful they are, but whether they still believe that tomorrow can become fundamentally different from today, and whether they're still willing to act as though that possibility is real. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about becoming a high-functioning zombie is that almost nobody realizes it is happening. Not because people lack intelligence. The people this happens to are often the most capable. But the human mind has this quiet talent, this almost beautiful, almost tragic talent for making peace with whatever cage it finds itself in. It takes the life you're already living and slowly convinces you it's the only life you could have lived. In the beginning, it's just a series of choices. You take the job because it pays. You keep the routine because it's stable. You stay in the city because moving is hard. But as years pass, something subtle but significant starts to happen. The job is no longer a job. It's stitched into your introduction. This is what I do, which quietly becomes, this is who I am. The routine is no longer a routine. It's the architecture of your days, and eventually becomes the architecture of your beliefs that this is just how life works. The circumstances surrounding a person, once fluid, negotiable, temporary, slowly stop feeling temporary and begin feeling permanent. Without realizing it, people stop distinguishing between the life they're living and the life they believe is possible for them. This is one of the quietest transformations a person can experience, because nothing external has to change for it to happen. The world is still chaotic, still open, still unfair and miraculous in equal measure. People are still quitting their jobs on Tuesdays and moving countries by Friday. Some kid in a bedroom is still building the next thing that will rewrite an industry. Strangers are still becoming best friends over coffee they almost didn't order. Unexpected opportunities, job offers, ideas, love, timing continue appearing every single day, indifferent to whether you're watching for them. Life never stopped being uncertain. Only your relationship with uncertainty changed. Instead of seeing uncertainty as the raw material where new possibilities are forged, many people begin treating uncertainty as a risk to be managed. They slowly build their lives around protecting what they already know, instead of discovering what they have not yet experienced. At first, this feels responsible. It looks like maturity. Then it becomes normal. It looks like adulthood. Eventually, it becomes invisible. It just looks like you. The frightening part is that people often mistake acceptance for understanding. They believe they have understood life because they have become fluent in their own version of it. But your experience of life is not the same as life itself. No matter how many years you have lived, you have only experienced an impossibly small fraction of what this world contains. There are conversations you have never had that would change your mind about what you want. There are cities where you would feel more like yourself. You just haven't been there yet. There are skills that would make you feel alive again. You just haven't tried them yet. There are versions of yourself, braver, softer, and wilder, that you haven't met yet. Entire futures currently exist only as potential because you have not yet made the decisions that would lead to them. Yet the mind quietly concludes that tomorrow will probably resemble yesterday, not because it has data about the future, but because repeating the past feels psychologically convincing. It feels like evidence. Perhaps this is the greatest illusion we ever create for ourselves. We mistake repetition for truth. We mistake familiarity for certainty. We mistake our current circumstances for the limits of our existence. And once those conclusions settle into the mind, something extraordinary begins to disappear. Curiosity, not the curiosity to learn random facts or consume more information. The specific curiosity to find out what your own life could still become if you stopped assuming you already know everything. That is the curiosity that separates people who merely continue existing from those who continue living. Because people who are truly alive never assume they have completely figured life out. They keep questioning themselves and continue challenging the stories they tell as an excuse when defending their ego would be easier. They continue acting as though the next decision, however small, could completely change the direction of their future because it can. Perhaps that is the difference between a human being and a high-functioning zombie. One believes that life has already given them everything it has to offer, and now there's nothing. The other never stops believing that somewhere beyond everything they currently know, beyond the job, the routine, the identity they've memorized, another possibility is still waiting to be discovered. So they act like it.